It's Wednesday, the 16th of July, 2025. And before I get into today's video that I'm going to share by Richard Grove, I've already linked his original video so that you can take a look at his other work. He has very interesting content. I just wanted to share, just full disclosure, that I've already said that I'm in the content creator program. I have been since March. And it looks like this month I'm not going to meet the criteria. And so I have here, creator program. In order to remain in the creator program, you will need to meet the following criteria. I've already met for the people that have viewed my videos, the hours watched this month. And I'm going to make my my 30 hours requirement. It's going to be hard because I'm going to be taking a little over a week where I'm going to be traveling. And so after today, I'm going to have essentially like 6 days to meet that. Total unique chatters. This was new this month. And I've gotten 6 people in the last 16 days who have uniquely commented it on my live feeds. And in order to qualify for next month, I need to have 14 more. And so it's not looking good because half the month is already over. And I don't have that. And so if you like my work or my content and what I share and the videos that I find on various different social media platforms online, Odyssey, Rockfin, BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, videos that are heavily censored and very controversial, don't get a lot of views, then I need the unique chatters. Premium book exclusive hours streamed. I'm almost at that as well. I don't like doing the premium only, but again, it's a requirement for it. So the videos that I usually push are the ones that are very controversial that I wouldn't be able to put on YouTube anyways, because they always get removed. And I'm already on account number 10 million on YouTube. And so this is just full disclosure here. So total earnings, ladies and gentlemen, 84 cents. 84 cents, and so that doesn't even meet what I pay monthly just for my Rumble subscription alone, let alone everything else I pay for in order to get my information out there. A lot more money than that I'm spending a month. And so, yeah, so if you like this channel, then I'm going to need some unique chatters. And if not, well, it is what it is. So anyway, on to today's video. Just because it's relevant to the conversations that people have been having over the last 2 years almost. So this is from Richard Grove. Like I said, this was posted over a month ago, and it only has a little over 1,000 views. So I would like that number to go up. So I want to promote his work. And again, he has a channel that has a lot more interesting information. So hopefully when you click that link, you'll subscribe to his channel. I'm not paid to say this, but again, it's very interesting and well worth people's time. And so anyway, here we go. And I've linked also the link to get you access to Grand Theft World as well.
I'm surprised no one ever came out with a competing system to Windows called Doors.
Yeah, that's a good one, dude.
We can still do it. But before we can get to that, we have to learn where the culture of terrorism came from. Was it the Palestinians? Did they go to Europe and commit a bunch of terrorist acts? And then these Polish guys are like, let's go down and get them where they are. We got to get them there before they come up here and get, like, how did that all work? We can find out because there's a history. Thanks to Middle East Eye. Let's go ahead and check out a little history of how 3 gangs who committed terrorist acts became like this super official place that has stationed all over the United States in your malls.
The Israeli Defense Force, Israel's well-funded and high-tech army, is the most moral army in the world. That is, if you believe the branding.
צה"ל הוא הצבא המוסרי ביותר בעולם.
The most moral army in the world.
The IDF is a moral army.
The most moral.
The IDF does more to safeguard the rights of civilians than any other army in the history of warfare.
But apart from the allegations of war crimes in Gaza, the attempts to paint it as an animal-friendly, queer-friendly, religiously tolerant military institution, the history of the IDF says more about it than its social media image. Before the formation of the State of Israel in 1948, and before there was an Israeli army, there were 3 underground Zionist militias: the Haganah, the Irgun, and the Lehi. They were comprised of mainly Jewish migrants to the British Mandate of Palestine, with the aim of helping usher in the Jewish state by any means necessary. They differed in their tactics and beliefs and at times fought with each other, but together they terrorized Palestinian villages, committed acts of violence, terrorism, and ethnic cleansing, and executed bombings and assassinations against the British to force them to give up control of the land. They blew up hotels in Jerusalem, embassies in Europe, and assassinated a UN mediator. All of this happened before 1948, because after Israel was officiated as a state, these three groups would be brought together to create the IDF, and their militia leaders would go on to form Israel's government, become politicians, ambassadors, and prime ministers.
Or as we like to call him, Benny from Philadelphia. You know, next time you guys see Bibi, ask him if he likes Geno's or Pat's as cheesesteaks. Which one's better? Because everyone in Philly can answer that question. Now, he just mentioned the Likud party. Now, if you don't know about the Likud party and you've never been there, the Likud party was this party. Diddy's no, that's a different story. Hold on. Likud. Oh, here we go. State of Israel, Zabatinsky, Zionism, Likud party, Bibi Netanyahu, neocons. Oh, that's interesting. So there's people like Leo Strauss that promoted Likudnik type policies, and then that trickled down to American foreign policy. You might have heard about it in the 21st century. The neocons, you know, the people who said that they needed a new Pearl Harbor right before 9/11, and then it magically happened almost as if it was scripted. These guys have a penchant for writing scripts that do not reflect reality. Just keep that in mind. So anyway, there's Jamestown Foundation, neocons. Wait a minute, there's the Koch brothers. Oh, wait. These types of things might start. Oh, there's think tanks, and there's CIA, and there's these Heritage Foundation. Oh my goodness, if you've been paying attention, you might be getting to near a point, but you haven't noticed yet, and you've probably still never been there. But I just wanted to point out that the Likud party influenced the neocons. Neocons in the Likud party plan perpetrated, got away with 9/11, if you want to put it that way, but you got to include MI6 because credit where credit is due. Just like over here, how British imperialists created the fascist Jabotinsky. And you might say, Rich, that's a neat article. Have you covered it here on Grand Theft World? And I would say, I went to the Clip Genie and already asked that question. So here's the answer. Here's the episodes. Let me put my spectacles on and read some titles for you. How Zionists changed their names to hide European heritage. That's a clip from this show. Gaslighting detectors for October 7th claims. That's interesting. Grand Theft World Podcast 179, Exigent Circumstances, also mentions this document. And Genocide on Trial. Very fascinating episode. But even way back, it looks like in, let's see, episode 11 of this podcast. Look, fascist Jabotinsky. So it's not the first time we mention it, and we have gone into depth. And this does pertain to the roundtable group of Cecil Rhodes and they, them, those who are using Freemasonic symbols and secret societies and the little mystery school, Israel. Is that like Isis, Ra, and El? I'm asking for a friend because these are questions that are just asked out there. I don't know. Was it on Reddit? Maybe that's where I read it. I've never been to Reddit, but I've heard it's a place that exists for people of that aptitude. All right. So, gentlemen, did you learn anything about the IDF that was not taught to you in school?
I mean, that's like drinking from a water hose there. It's like, yeah, man. I mean, it's starting all to come together. Like so many of these different topics, so many of these different names, they come up a lot on the show, but you know, that was interesting to see that intersection and how they all kind of interact with each other. So there's a picture forming in my mind. It's starting to, the synapses are starting to.
A bunch of guys from like 100-mile radius in Eastern Europe change their names, work with the Nazis, move people to Palestine. Like that's a whole interesting piece of history there that is usually not weighed on the scale when people talk about October 7th and do you renounce Hamas? What do you think, Paul?
Well, I mean, you have to start every statement by renouncing Hamas just to make sure people know that you're not a sympathizer, of course. It's very, very important.
Because if you were a sympathizer, you'd be a terrorist.
Well, and that's the slippery slope, right? Whenever you're using logical fallacies, trying to throw someone on a bandwagon or toss out a few red herrings, it's, you know, you can get a pretty good exercise in logical fallacies by just studying these propagandistic tactics. And it is interesting that the people who thirst for power will transform their more terroristic or violent ambitions in, you know, the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and instead of doing it themselves, they just try and get into positions of power where they can send other people to go commit the same violence. And so it just, yeah, ultimately reminds me of Starship Troopers, when the teacher's talking about, you know, force is the ultimate power in the world, and it's only achieved through violence, and that's a strictly fascistic ideology. Might
It's a
makes
bunch of
right.
sticks bundled with an axe. Just in case you don't get the stick, you get the axe. It's not the carrot or the stick, it's the stick or the axe. They might have an axe to grind. All right, so there's a quote, since you're throwing out movie lines. There's a quote in the movie The American President, and there's the Michael J. Fox character, and there's the Martin Sheen character. And the Michael J. Fox character is like, you know, the people are so thirsty, they're willing to drink sand. And then the Martin Sheen character says, like, Lewis, the reason they drink the sand is because they don't know the difference. I was like, wow, they're telling us the truth. Just like they tell us the truth about the producer named Stanley who wouldn't keep his mouth shut and wag the dog. Definitely not a warning shot across the bow for anybody. But there is this saying, so like, you don't want to be a Hamas sympathizer because you don't want to be a terrorist. And why is that bad? Because then you'd be like the founders of Israel. No, that's not it. Because then the U.S. would not negotiate with you, because the United States does not negotiate with terrorists, but sometimes they take orders, I guess, from them when you take that documentary into context, maybe. Is that the untoward influence of the AIPAC lobby on our Congress? Like, if my Congress critter for short, is more inclined to follow the agenda of some people from Eastern Europe who change their names than me, who pays taxes here, what's that about? Is that because, like, I just don't know how things work? Or is that because blackmail is definitely like a cause and effect type of thing that they use? Thus, the Epstein story and his Syrian mystery school temple of, you know, jacking and Boaz and jacking off or whatever they're doing over there. Because, like, I think that's pretty symbolic. That's like an on purpose thing. They removed the gold dome. You saw the domes that were left in there. Did you know that the Capitol has a dome in Washington, D.C.? Yeah, you probably did know that. Did you know inside of the Capitol dome there is a big mural? Yeah, you probably knew that. Did you know that inside the dome there's another dome with a secret mural that you cannot see unless you go up there with a senator or congressman? You have to have a special tour to get to see that. Did you know that? There might even be pictures in this day and age of that being on Google. Somebody might have snapped some shots, right? It's not unlike the apotheosis or the becoming of God for George Washington. What is that, a Freemasonic painting? Who else's name means apotheosis? Was that Milanowski? Did he change his name to like becoming God or something like that? God on the Hill. Seems like a Freemasonic mystery school. Like, have you read these lexicons and dictionaries that they got going on? There's a lot of ancient history that we're not taught about that's all being represented in their symbols and tracing boards and stuff like that. And who created that? Well, if you read, you know, if you read books by women, even though you've never been there, you could read Jessica Harlan Jacobs' Builders of Empire. And she's got this curious map going on. It's like, here's where they set up all the Freemasonic, you know, lodges. And then 100 years later, here's all the British colonies around the world. And they just happen to be like in places that the lodges were set up, almost as if the empire was colonizing the world. What was Jabotinsky trying to figure out? How to colonize people? That's why the British found him so useful, because they're like, dude, we're working on that too. Let's work together. We're colonizing. In fact, what was that book by Hebrew University, Rand Aronson called? I think it's called Rothschild Colonization in Palestine. Colonization, but they're not colonizing. And there's definitely no such place as Palestine. That's a myth if you watch mainstream media. And if you're a Congress critter, they probably all think that's a myth. Or if they go to church, Christian Zionism, they'll tell you, oh, that's not what's going on. But what you're telling me is real? Okay. Oh, wait, I made a pun there about Israel. It's got, you know, it's a synchronicity situation. This Jabotinsky, British intelligence, Cecil Rhodes. I mean, literally. Balfour Declaration, Leo Amory, Cecil Rhodes, Lord Milner, British Empire. Like, Jerusalem. What does this have to do with Jerusalem and rebuilding temples? Again, you gotta You're not going to get it by looking at just one group's agenda. This is multiple multi-generational groups getting together with an agenda that you just got born into this place and you're not read into. As Carlin said, it's a big club and you're not in it. Or as you'll hear Matt Kim talk about, it's a big club, and if you don't know about it, I guess you didn't pay the dues. There's some sort of they're using hence. I do not condone what they do in their video, but I will show it to you because I thought it was interesting. That's how that's going to go. Do you guys have any comments on the Jabotinsky and the founders of terrorism and blaming terrorism on other people? Like, if there's a master race going on, do you think that was just Tiny Mustache Man going on like over there? Right? Even the Zionists are like, we don't want these people to move to Israel. Can you do something with these guys? What are we going to do? That went on. You just heard about how they worked. Stern Gang and Likud, and what was the other one? Haganah, and there's that other, I forget the name because I know the slang names for some of these groups that they used, but Stern Gang, I think, was official on their motorcycle jackets.
It sort of sounds to me like gangsters have always existed, but what changed is about 120, 130 years ago, they developed a new technique called public relations, whereby they take off the terrorist outfit or the gangster outfit and they put on a business suit, and they get lots of positive articles written about them, and they exercise this narrative scrubbing that essentially sets up an idea of who these people really are in people's minds. They write history books. They
make movies like The Godfather, which might portray Italians as doing things that they weren't necessarily the inspirers. It's like Donator. I don't know how to do that word, and I speak English for a first language. So,
but Edward Bernays, right? Great example of somebody who just recognized and developed these techniques. He noticed certain things about human psychology, and might have been, family members with Sigmund Freud.
So he was one of the original noticers, is what I'm hearing.
Correct. But from that, they were able to develop all these techniques. And once those techniques were married with gangsterism, then it made gangsterism into this quasi-legitimate belief system, really, whereby we go through the same cycle of abuse each time, the same empty promises each time, but there's always a collective scrubbing of the memory and a collective bastion of hopium that's given out. And for whatever reason, people, they recognize how corrupt things are, but if they have enough comfort, they're willing to overlook that and think that their only power is to vote once every 4 or 5 years. And I think what the system is doing, because it's gangsters, it's cumulatively abusing people to the point where you can't help but notice. And so it's their own fault. If they were smarter and more slick and less greedy, maybe we wouldn't have noticed, but they're not, and we are.
So you're putting them on notice?
You are officially on notice.
All right. So somewhere in the Matt Kim clips, I have to just fact correct, so you don't get misinformed. I'm pretty sure it's him, or maybe it was one of the other, maybe it was a Jake Shields podcast where somebody was on there. But they made the accusation that there are no Jewish mafia movies. That all the movies portray Italian mafia, Sicilian mafia, but not the Jewish mafia, right? Almost as if the people who run Hollywood only want you to see these people over here doing the thing, but they're not doing the thing and they don't have a history of the thing. However, I wanted to point out, was it Sergio Leone? It was like 1983. They made Once Upon a Time in America, which is all about, it's a really long movie about the Jewish mafia in New York City. It's a fascinating movie. I've seen it many, many times. Robert De Niro plays one of the protagonists. There's other famous people in there too. But the point is, that bit of American culture and history, which I find it to be substantial, relevant, and interesting. Right? I lived in New York for a long time. I didn't know all this history when I was living there. So I'm appreciative. Is that how you say the word appreciative? Appreciative of this perspective that is, given to us. It's a tidy little view through Hollywood's lens, and it doesn't show us anything that Orson Welles was blackmailing Hollywood producers about. Or was that Randolph Hearst? They both had the same ending. So I forget sometimes. It's like those movies with the templates that all get the happy ending or whatever. It's like one of those things, only it was the opposite of happy. It was more like a tragedy for those guys and their careers. But anyway, speaking of people who didn't kill their career yet, speaking about these things, we're going to see the Matt Kim, whatever his co-host name is, the guy who goes, he does like the ASMR reactions, which is probably why they get more views in the show, unless we work that in on the soundboard, Scott, maybe.
I guess I dedicated.
Yeah, we could just take his right. And when I'm
Mm.
saying something that sounds smart, you could just hit the button.
And it'll go, been there.
And then we'll say the word usury. And then we'll say some other words, and then we'll get lots of YouTube views and be perfectly publicly acceptable conversation at that point. I think that's the plan.
Get it. Usury. There you go.
If Q doesn't work for you, try the letters R, S, T, U, and V, or even the whole alphabet. You work with a larger information set is what I'm telling you if you just stuck with Q. All right, they do mention that, and I was just poking fun because I think Melania is Q or Carmen Sandiego. I keep going back and forth which one she really is. But Trump could have a time machine, and he maybe is playing games. I don't know. It's all just Tesla technology. But before we get to questions about questioning and noticing, do you guys have any other clips that we need to work into tonight's show card? Oh, Scott, you have in the chat here, Israel has pursued the single most humane war. Israel has pursued the single most humane warfare in Gaza. I can't even read.
I stumbled across this really, earlier.
Yeah.
That clip that we were just playing, like, really reminded me of this. It's really just probably the most egregious thing I've ever heard Ben Shapiro say.
So it looks like this, but Colby would have to show us how it sounds.
Yeah.
It's
like a 45-second clip. I was just throwing it there just for.
Oh, we got 45 seconds for.
Yeah, I mean,
Legal Zoom. Please use Legal Zoom. They pay for this propaganda. Colby, you plugging that in? Let's hear what he has to say. They have to get a special tripod for him so it could be like low enough.
Totally. I don't know. I'm gonna try and find some good.
They actually upgraded him to a standing desk, which is for the rest of us is just a desk.
Yeah, there you go. I did notice that that I did find the little soundboard interface for the it's a digital interface. It's not like an actual physical thing that my buddy uses. I guess it's only available for Windows. So I apparently have to learn how to write a Python script this week. That's my new assignment. And create my own little app.
I'm surprised no one ever came out with a competing system to Windows called Doors.
Yeah, that's a good one, dude.
We can still do it. All right, Ben is ready for his appearance on Grand Theft World. Let's see how long he can stay in the hot seat.
I understand there are people out there today who are upset if you laugh at this. You should be laughing at this. I will just say there is nothing immoral about laughing or chortling over terrorists who get their balls blown off. There's nothing immoral about that. Beyond that, there is something politically useful in laughing at terrorists because the reality is what they deeply desire is fear and respect, and nothing undermines fear and respect more than laughter. Well, this incident deserves not only laughter, it deserves celebration in the West because it turns out that when a Western power, which Israel certainly is, blows the balls off something like 2,800 terrorists in a simultaneous pager attack, that's funny. Israel has pursued the single most humane war in the history of warfare in Gaza. I understand there are people out there today who are upset if you laugh at this.
That was the end of it. So yeah.
Is it? I'm unclear because sometimes comedy's murky. Is it funny like funny haha, or is it funny like funny Nakba? I'm not sure what he's got going on there, but it's hilarious that you just send out bombs and hope that they find the terrorists, and you're just okay with that, right? Didn't they put Ted Kaczynski behind bars for doing that? Didn't he send some mail and sometimes it found the person, sometimes it didn't? It's kind of like those pagers, right? Should they have the same thing? Should they be in the Supermax with MK Ultra victims that they collect up there? No.
Yeah. I mean, if he wants us to laugh at terrorists, don't worry, Ben. We're laughing at you, dude. Don't worry. You're laughing at.
Not saying he's a terrorist, just represents people with an agenda that was founded on terrorism.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant.
The net.
I'm going to keep this going, but I did want to share a clip of something that people might consider controversial. But I mean, you're on the wrong channel if you're not interested in looking at things that are controversial.
Iran wants to kill is all the Jews.
Iran's intent to exterminate the Jewish people.
In the Islamic Republic of Iran, the second largest Jewish population in the Middle East outside of Israel.
Wait. Iran has the second highest Jewish population outside of Israel, and yet we're being convinced that they just want to kill all Jews. It sounds like they're doing a pretty bad job if that's...
There's also a lot of Christians in Lebanon, and my former partner, who I'm still friends with, because and we also co-parent the doggies. Obviously, he works a lot, so he doesn't get to see them as often as he'd like to. But anyways, his family, his father actually came to Canada from Lebanon, and he is an incredible human being. His family, I've met all of his family. They are incredible human beings and work hard. And his father's had the same restaurant business for over 40 years. And so anyways, I just wanted to give that up just for more context.
It's the case.
You've been in Iran for 2,700 years.
2,700 years. They've been doing a terrible job if that's their goal.
Humayun Someya is the president of the Tehran Jewish Committee.
In Iran, we have complete freedom to carry out our religious duties.
You know, it's funny, in Israel, only Jewish people have the right to carry out their religious duties.
There's a lot more religious diversity in this country than many people know about. For instance, in Isfahan alone, there are 13 synagogues.
Chair Behravan used to live in New York City. One thing he values in Iran, he says, is the absence of anti-Semitism.
I feel safer here than probably United States.
It's almost like the Western media has lied to us for over 30 years.
Is the head of Isfahan's Jewish community, and he says we consider ourselves Iranian Jews, not Israeli Jews.
I cannot live without Iranian culture.
This highlights that we have to be very careful about our language and realize that talking about the Israeli government is different than talking about Jews.
Absolutely.
Is an elected member of Iran's parliament.
My decision about Israel based on the Iranian national interest. Everyone who is enemy of my country is enemy of me.
Well, that will send shockwaves through what you thought you knew.
That's who Iran wants to kill is all the Jews.
Iran's intent.
So yeah, more context.
The Net. Oh, look at this. There's actually a good documentary if you guys are interested in learning more. The Net, the Unabomber, LSD, and the Internet by Lutz Dambeck. You can learn about cybernetics, mind control, technocracy, slavery, and the Unabomber. It is related to the topic of terrorism, which you can learn about in other things like the Lavon affair. I'm sorry, did I mix up?
Talked about that.
Operation Suzanne. Oh, wait.
USS Liberty.
Operation Esther? What was that? We heard about Operation, what was that? Esther Project Esther a couple times tonight. Did we get a Wikipedia entry on that? I'm pretty sure.
I've talked about Project Esther. Again, it's more propaganda fueled by the same propagandists. And by the way, Mark Levin is a big part of that as well, the Heritage Foundation. He is also someone that is a radical extremist and pushing terrorist activities and supporting it and enabling it.
Or somewhere
We
around
put it in the
here.
chat, but we didn't cover it.
Here's Project Esther. And you might hear some things like Heritage Foundation in here. Don't worry about that.
Not worry about that.
Project describes the pro-Palestinian groups as part of a Hamas support network. That's almost like an Al-Qaeda support network. Replace Al-Qaeda with Hamas and you understand the new war. Rockefeller Brothers Fund. George Soros. Right? So when all the people from the last game are on the team, right? That's pretty concerning. Anyway, I'm sure there's nothing to this, and they're definitely not going to just start rounding people up like they were Al-Qaeda terrorists and taking them to Gitmo or black sites, right? It's not in our history. As Americans, that stuff does not happen on our soil.
Logic. Now, what the hell is that?
And it was launched in 2024.
See, that was good. Cover me, Goose.
And by the way, Wikipedia and Netanyahu's been on the record saying it, and other people within his government, that they've hired multiple people within Israel to edit Wikipedia pages in order to fit their agenda and their narrative. So even Wikipedia, again, there are huge groups of people that are editing it to reconfirm biases.
I thought I had the.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
If it was a video game, when I reach for a book, it would be there. But I have a report around here. It's published by this group called the CIA, or maybe it wasn't the CIA. It was about the CIA terrorizing and torturing people. It was a torture report, like Gonzalez torture report. It's a big, thick book. A lot of torture happened, apparently, and that happened this century. So maybe like they're not done doing that type of stuff. And while people are comfortable watching like Mr. Beast and all this other nonsense they're feeding you out there, too few people are getting in touch with like these people have an agenda and they keep moving the ball toward the goal line while they keep sending you to the the confessional or the confection stand, the concession stand, where you make concessions. That's like negotiating with terrorists. So it all just comes back to like Irgun and Stern Gang, as far as like you see in that conversation. Before we get to the noticing, thank you for bringing that Ben Shapiro clip to my attention. And if I have time this week, I'll find the clip of him saying it's not a good look, because I would like to clip that and then put it with a whole bunch of stuff that's not a good look that you might have seen on shows like Middle East Eye or, Sabby Sabs or Katie Halper, or other people who are definitely not Hamas sympathizers or supporters. Like most of the anti-Zionist voices that I would cite happen to be Jewish. Most of the people who are being persecuted are Semites, who are indigenous to that land and have closer blood and DNA to the people in the Bible than the people from Eastern Europe. And I know they don't like to talk about that. In fact, they make laws in Israel so you can't go 23andMe your way out of like your ignorance. There are reasons these things are going on, and they're not for the people in that country. They're not for the Palestinians. They're not for the Israelis. It's not for the Americans. There's a group of people that are against all of us in all the countries. Let's get on the same page and stop fighting amongst each other and start to realize like they, them, those are predators. And who do they prey on? The youngest, the oldest, and everyone fucking in between. So I'm not saying let's go pitchforks and torches, because that's not probably the best solution. They have nuclear weapons and all sorts of nasty biologicals. But I am saying learn to withdraw your consent at strategic times when they might be depending on you. That could be interesting. That could be asymmetrical, decentralized, and something they really can't effectively plan against with their robots. Right? I wrote down a phrase earlier tonight. It's called quadcopter machine guns. It's not the name of my new band. It's a thing we talked about earlier is killer robots. And then they're like, hey, they sent in a quadcopter with machine guns against the Palestinians. Don't let the whole world become Palestine is what I'm saying. That's the gist. I felt I had to say something inspired by Theo Vaughn. But Theo, if you ever watched Grand Theft World and you went to Clip Genie, you'd see we have like 6 months of a free education of the highest class on this topic that will not lead to you engaging and supporting the murder and extermination of women and children. So, like, someone clip that and send it to Theo.
Twice a year, I teach a course called Autonomy. It's a 12.
All right, this was a great video. On that note, I will leave it at that, and I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.